Good afternoon, and thank you for attending today's session. This session is being recorded. It will be turned off when we reach the question and answer portion. And this webinar will be available to you on our YouTube channel for future use. Again, good afternoon. This is Rose Walterbeek with the Nevada Department of Agriculture. And today's webinar is Cycle Menu Planning and USDA Foods Utilization. So with that, let's get started. So the goal today is to provide you with a brief introduction to cycle menu planning and USDA foods utilization in those cycle menus. So for today's professional standards learning codes, we're in the 1000 area on nutrition, specifically 1100 for menu planning, 1120 for cycle menus, and 1170 on USDA foods. So for today's agenda, we're going to go over the benefits of a cycle menu, how to plan your cycle menu, how to incorporate USDA foods in your cycle menu, and a brief update on the state of Nevada USDA foods. So why do we do a cycle menu? Cycle menus are probably the best kept secret in the National School Lunch Program. They can help you, the schools and the RCCI, serve tasty meals that fit within the United States Department of Agriculture's meal guidelines. They greatly reduce labor and time involved in planning menus throughout the school year. They can help you reduce plate waste because you're using tried and true and tested meals that are kid-friendly and USDA approved. They can reduce your food costs by allowing more foods to be ordered in bulk. And you can price them out in advance based on current year pricing, so you have a pretty good ballpark on what your meal costs are going to be throughout the year. So if you need to cut your ordering and purchase time, again, the cycle menus will allow you to do that because you're repeating the same foods and the same sequence of foods and just rotating that throughout the menu for the school year. You can increase your participation because you can start to look at the planning of your most popular meals in your lunch service program. It can help you with purchasing and the effective use of your kitchen inventory and your staffing. And keep in mind, you can still make seasonal adjustments once you have cycle menus in place for fall, winter, spring, and summer, or if you have any local foods or any local events happening in your school districts or RCCIs. And just a gentle reminder that the cycle menus must meet the target 1 sodium levels. So the cycle menu, you can plan them out in advance with your USDA food surveys and your state processed foods that you will be ordering at the end of this school year. And over the summer months, you can start to produce those standardized recipes for all of your kitchen sites to include. Again, we're still looking on the vegetable subgroups in the dark green vegetable area, the red-orange, the beans and legumes, whole grain rich foods. The nutrient analysis can be done in advance for all age and grade groups. And you can still use those USDA worksheets for that plan check compliancy. So we're going to talk about a few of these areas here in the next couple slides. So nuts and bolts, where do I start with a cycle menu? The first thing you want to do is take a look at your current menu in each of the age grade groups and look at what meal pattern you have in place, and then start to make adjustments from there. The second thing you have to ask yourself is what is that length of cycle to best meet the needs of your operation? So keep in mind you can have varying lengths of a cycle menu. For example, you may want to start with a 3-week breakfast cycle and a 5-week cycle for lunch. You can run that rotation through your student population and then make adjustments as necessary. So again, looking at that current menu that you have in place, take a look at your most popular items and where you have the maximum participation with the menu you have in place. Ask yourself and your staff what's working well, and then take a look at what areas need improvement with that current menu. Take a look at maybe where you're dropping on participation levels and why. So once you start to get that same core menu in place, you can start to use the same items for the entrees, for example, and then add items to it. For example, if you need to add items from your middle school menu to meet the needs of the high school age grade group, you can look at some items for a calorie booster, such as the grain item or the meat alternate, which are slightly different for those age grade groups, by just adding a string cheese serving or a graham cracker. Again, taking a look at those weekly and daily requirements, and that's where those USDA worksheets come in handy for your menus. So if you plug your cycle menu into a plan in the USDA worksheet, or do the same operation in a menu analysis worksheet, you can take a look and see if you've met the age and grade groupings for a compliant meal pattern for USDA. And again, once you put all your menu items in and fill the worksheets out, just remember green means go. So that means your menu's good to go. Some other things to consider when you're building that cycle menu is really looking at that staffing to meet the menu demands. For example, if you have a large delivery coming on a regular day on a weekly basis, for example, it's a weekly food order, you may want to consider a lighter menu option like a heat and serve item that day so your staff has time to put the food away. Also take a look at your kitchen prep and the delivery schedules with all the other vendors as you're planning this menu. And one important thing to consider is you may just want to menu some type of a canned or frozen fruit on the Monday, for example, in case that produce delivery doesn't get there in time to meet a fresh menu item. And food safety, if you have more of your heavier scratch items midweek, that will give your staff time to thaw that meat out in a safe manner and cook the meat perhaps a day before so you can build the menu midweek to meet the menu requirements. And again, those Friday items are probably, if you have leftovers, are not going to hold till Monday. So most of those food items and salad bar items will be discarded at the end of the school week. So some other things to consider on your cycle menu plan, some best practices, is take a look at how many items you're serving on the line. So from the front line perspective, if you have an item such as a homemade burrito, that's going to take a lot more staff time to assemble for when the students come through for the meal service. So take a look and really consider that efficiency of how many items you're having and the tasks that you're having to do to prepare that menu when it gets to the line stage. One thing that is often overlooked is that overlay of taking a look at that breakfast menu item and your lunch item to see on the particular day if the students are getting a variety of food and color throughout the cycle. So you really need to work together when you're building your breakfast and lunch meals just to make sure that you have different types of entrees, for example, on the Monday as well as the Tuesdays, especially those fruit items that you're going to want to mix that up or incorporate leftovers so you can continue to use the leftovers but still have a variety for the students. And again, the students notice that if they're getting the same types of fruit every day, as opposed to that variety of fruit choices throughout the day. And one area, of course, is always to send that draft menu when you're close to having it buttoned up to your kitchen managers for some production input. They may have thought of things that you haven't thought of that you're going to want to take care of in advance before you roll that menu out to your families and for the students. Some other things to consider is looking at that fresh fruit and vegetable program that's going on in your schools and or a harvest of the month, so you can start to cross promote those featured fruits and vegetables on your menu. For example, if last month the students had a jicama sampling with a fresh fruit and vegetable program, and you can coordinate that to have it on the following month on your menu, it's a great way to start to introduce those new foods to the students and that they see that partnership with the education piece and the menu you've produced for them. Some other things to consider is kind of naming that entree. The research has shown that as opposed to just having boiled carrots or cooked carrots, if you can start to name it some clever names such as carrot coins, your sack lunches are fine, but maybe you want to start calling it a happy sack lunch, or instead of just corn, maybe a crazy corn or a roasted corn. And some great ideas is kind of taking a look at all of the other national school lunch program menus to give you some ideas out there for school nutrition. And as you're planning the cycle menu, also consider sports teams or field trip days to maximize that participation. And definitely put that on the menu so the families are aware that they can also get these sack lunches for the students on field trip days or sports days, as long as it's scheduled accordingly with your staff. Some other festive days that you can add onto your cycle menu might be potato bars in March. Thanksgiving type meals are always very popular, especially in the spring. And breakfast for lunch is a favorite any time of the year for students. So start to think of those angles to boost participation and kind of keep those cycle menus some variety in them. Some slow mover items as you're kind of going through your menu cycle, you might need to add a lucky tray day, and I encourage you to do so with a non-food item such as a sticker, a pencil, a trading card. You would be amazed at how much the students really appreciate getting stickers and pencils in the schools. And again, keep in mind that you can introduce new items, you can replace items throughout the cycle. It's not something that you're stuck with for the whole year, but you can keep it fluid. And you just have to make a few adjustments with your compliancy on your certification worksheets, if you're using those as a guide, or that you're replacing like items with like things for an appropriate substitution for the USDA meal program. And lastly, have fun with your menus. The students really look forward to those, and there's a lot of great ideas you can put on the menus and a lot of great graphics once you kind of get that cycle menu dialed out in your schools or RCCIs. So taking a look at some sample cycle menu screenshots, there are some cycle menu options in most school nutrition programs if you have a computerized nutrient analysis program. And once you get that function down, it's very easy and it's a very simple copy and paste to roll it forward for the entire school year. And the United States Department of Agriculture has a list of that nutrient analysis software, which also has a lot of menu planning options in the approved software through the Team Nutrition website. So there's a couple screenshots there for you. And again, one of my favorite things out there was to kind of grab and take a look at all the different types of menus out there and menu designs that you can utilize in your system. So those should all look familiar to most of you on the webinar. All right, so we're going to switch gears on to how to utilize USDA Foods. So once you have that core menu built and you've done all your plan check, you've run everything by your staff in terms of your production kitchen managers and any changes and suggestions they may have, let's take a look and switch gears on how we can start to use those USDA foods in the menu cycle. So just a reminder, there are different types of USDA foods. We have our brown box or our bulk items, such as the beef, your cheese, your canned foods, your frozen items. The second option is processed foods. So that's foods that the bulk items have been sent to an approved processor, and that might be something such as the individually wrapped pizzas or some bulk breakfast items that you're purchasing. And then third, of course, is the DoD Fresh, which is your fresh bulk produce that you're able to utilize through the DoD Fresh program. And again, all these items are ordered in advance in CNP 2000 and delivered monthly from the state of Nevada warehouses and or your DoD Fresh vendors for your DoD Fresh produce. So just kind of looking at some food costs again from our last webinar and utilizing those in a cycle menu, the USDA Foods would simply be that entitlement dollar being used up. And there's a small charge for a shipping and handling per case, which is an out-of-pocket cost. Your processed foods utilizes those entitlement dollars. You will be charged a small processing fee, which is an out-of-pocket funding, and shipping and handling, again, out-of-pocket costs. And the DoD Fresh is entitlement only, so you're just drawing down those entitlement dollars and there's no out-of-pocket cost to you. So for some actual food costs, that case of frozen corn is going to cost you about $2.50 for shipping and handling. The processed, again, we talked about that mozzarella string cheese being added onto a menu item is going to be approximately $16 per case. And the DoD Fresh produce is going to be zero charge to you, but just drawing down those entitlement funds that you have diverted in advance. So here's some sample food cost slides with the USDA Foods, and you can see kind of the per plate cost. The bottom line, your total food budget is going to be around 91 cents. Again, I just want to draw your attention to the potatoes are coming in at about 2 cents a serving with USDA Foods. And the apple is going to be no charge to you, just drawing down on your entitlement. And again, a comparable apple from a food vendor might be around a quarter. And the breakfast menu as well, using those USDA Foods in your cycle menu. Again, the apple is going to be no charge to you, and the string cheese with the processing is going to be around 9 cents as opposed to with a food vendor, you can expect to pay probably 30 cents or more for that individually wrapped string cheese item. So when you're planning those cycle menus, if you can go back to around December, January, we sent out a USDA Foods Available option through USDA, and take a look at some of those items that we are hoping to get through the state of Nevada through the survey process as our Foods Available list, and you can start to think what you want to offer on your menus for 16-17 school year. And again, using those USDA Foods, they are offering a variety of canned, fresh, frozen, and dry fruit that you can utilize for that meal pattern in the fruit section. And through the DoD Fresh program. Vegetables, USDA is coming up with a wider variety of low sodium canned, frozen, and fresh vegetables, as well as a lot of tomato products that you can use in your menu planning. For example, the tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce, salsa, etc. Your meat and meat alternates, very popular, of course, is the low sodium mozzarella cheeses, the mozzarella string cheese, the 1 ounce, the lean meats, porks, and poultry items. And the chicken fajita product is very popular for the students as well, and is again coming in a low sodium because USDA is well aware of the sodium restrictions for the upcoming few years with the target 2 and 3 levels. The grains, USDA is also getting more whole grain pastas, tortillas, flours, oats, and rice available. And again, more of those grain products and the whole grain rich criteria that's in place. And again, we're still taking a look. Right now we're in the target 1 sodium levels, but fast approaching is the target 2 for the 2017-18 school year. And the third and final target is in 2022-23 school year. And again, the saturated fat is, again, USDA offering those lean meats, poultry, fish, and reduced fat cheeses for the menu planning. And then the other areas that we look at, of course, are the trans fats, which are not added to the products, and also the calories, really looking at that nutrient-dense food, which is the basis of the meal planning for the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act. So DoD Fresh is growing, and the state, across the nation, the state school districts, it's up to $160 million for the school year 15-16, which is the current school year we're in now. And again, there's a variety of produce that's available. Just a gentle reminder on the Buy American provision, and that the food is coming from states here, Washington, California, etc., New Jersey, Georgia, for a lot of these great food products. And just a very brief update for the state of Nevada, USDA Foods. The RFP is in the final works, and it's just about ready for the upcoming release to the public, so stay tuned on that. Your entitlement, please check your balances for the school year that we're in, 2015-16, and start to use that product up between now and May and June. DoD Fresh Produce, for those of you who are not utilizing that program, please contact Bernadette DeMars with the Nevada Department of Agriculture. And those entitlement balances have been uploaded and they're ready to be viewed at this time in your CNP 2000. And also the surveys in CNP 2000 will be posted soon for the 2016-17 school year. So take a look at that. And again, if you have any questions, please contact Bernadette. So we have some resources for you on menu planning. The Nevada Department of Agriculture. There's some great cycle menus on the Healthier Kansas menu. Menus that move through the Ohio Department of Education. What's Cooking? The Nebraska Department of Education. Team Nutrition menu planning. And of course, USDA Foods. So don't feel like you have to do it alone out there, that there are other cycle menus that have been produced that you can either take a look at and incorporate as your own with any adjustments you may have for your local school sites and RCCIs, or just to get some great ideas on how that cycle menu, what it looks like in terms of a cycle menu plan. And again, for the professional standards learning codes, we're in that 1,000 area for nutrition, and the breakout would be 1,100 for menu planning, 1,120 for cycle menus, and 1,170 for USDA Foods. So we will put this webinar on our YouTube archive on our NDA site within the week. And upcoming webinars for April, we have an annual application renewal. And also upcoming in April is our regional procurement training. So we'll be sending some save the date information out to you folks as well. All right, so with that, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can go ahead and entertain any questions you have. Again, I thank